Become a Leslie's Pro member, and with almost 1,000 locations conveniently located less than 3 miles from your service route, you can quickly get in and out and take care of your customers. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software platform. Listeners of the podcast can try Skimmer for free. Visit my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and click on the Leslie's Pro and the Skimmer banners to learn more.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over photometer testing. I'm going to describe what a photometer or photometer is, and I'm going to go over some of the pros and cons of using one. And if you're curious about how to pronounce it, it's pronounced differently by region. You can call it a photometer or photometer, depending on what area of the world you're actually in. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. I used to pronounce it photometer, but then I started using photometer. It sounds a little more scientific, photometer. It just sounds like you're using a scientific device, which it is a pretty high-tech scientific device. And I like to make things very simple for my listeners, so I'm going to give you how this works in a very simplified fashion. It's not highly scientific, but basically you're going to add a reagent to the water sample. The first thing that the photometer does is it blanks out the water sample, and it gets the light setting from the water sample that you put in there that doesn't have a reagent. So that's the first step. Once it has that kind of blank standard of the color, because everything's a little bit different and each photometer works differently, and some are more high-tech than others, having that blank sample is really important for it to get the right reading. Then you add the reagent to it, and I'll just use alkalinity as an example. There's a green color reagent, and depending on the alkalinity, it'll be lighter green or darker green in that tube that you can't see because it's a darkened area. You'll see it in the tube when you put the actual reagent in, but you won't see it necessarily inside the photometer with the cover closed to block the light out. Then a beam of light is shot in there, and then it reads the color basically, and gives you a readout based on the color of that reagent that the beam of light reads. So basically it's like if you had an older OTO test kit, and some people still use those, a 5-way test kit. So the OTO is a dye that you put in there, and the more chlorine that's in the pool is going to be a brighter yellow. The less chlorine is going to be a really dull or light yellow, or not even, you can't even see the yellow in some cases if it's really low in chlorine. So that's kind of the same thing that the photometer does. It takes whatever is in the tube with the reagent, and it measures the color basically to give you the reading. Again, this is very simplified. It's more complex than that, but I think you get an idea of how these work and how effective they are, because you won't have to hold it up like with the Taylor kit if you're doing a pH test. You're holding it up to the light at eye level, and you're seeing the color, and then you see the little thing on the side that says 7.8, 7.6, 7.4. Really, it's difficult, at least for me and a lot of people, to tell if it's 7.3, 7.4, 7.5. Those ranges are very, very similar in color. But what the photometer does, since it's electronic and it reads the actual light spectrum, and it will give you an exact printout, or the exact display on the screen, I should say, of the color it's reading, you'll know that it's 7.355 or 7.412. It goes into minutia sometimes with how fine of a reading you're going to get. But you'll definitely be able to see if it's 7.2.1 or 7.2.4. In most cases, it's really fine-tuned to that level. Now, one thing I get a lot is the pH or alkalinity seems a lot lower than when I do it on my Taylor kit, or a lot higher in some cases, because the Taylor kit technically is not something that you can correlate directly with the photometer. Which reading would I trust? Well, I usually would trust the photometer over a test strip or the Taylor test kit because of the digital printout. If it's a high-quality photometer, it's going to have a high-quality readout, and it's going to be accurate. They're NSF approved, so a lot of the photometers like the ColorQ 2X Pro 9, 2X Pro 7, it's been independently tested that the reading is accurate. Same with the ITS system. They also had an NSF approved test kit that was verified. So that's the difference between the reagent that you would kind of hold up at your eye level like a Taylor kit or a test strip, the photometer will give you an exact readout. Now there is some drawbacks with the photometer, and I'll go over those right now so you kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a really unbiased position here because I like the photometers. I use them. I think they're great. There's several different ones that I've used over the years, and I think that they're necessary in a lot of applications. But there are some cons, and I'll go over the cons first. Well, number one, the price of the unit is going to be a lot more expensive than, say, a 5-way test kit or a Taylor K2006 kit. You're going to pay for that device because it has electronics in there and it is a piece of scientific equipment basically. Prices will vary based on what you actually want or what system you're getting. Like for instance, you're getting the HazMat Spin Touch, which does 10 test factors in 60 seconds with one disc. You're looking at over $1,000. If you're looking for the Color Q 2X Pro 9, which is my go-to photometer, the one I like and use the most, you're looking at somewhere around $300, $350 for that one. And then you have, of course, the ITS Exact Pool Easy. These use a special test strip. It's not technically a test strip that you would use, that you would think you would use in a container. These are specially formulated exact strips that have the reagent measured on there. So it's pretty much like using the reagent or a tablet that these photometers use. Another drawback is that a lot of the photometers are moving away from liquid reagents, mainly because the shelf life isn't that great. They're not the exact same reagents that you would use for a Taylor test kit. For instance, you can't use a Taylor test kit reagent in the HazMat Color Q because they're formulated differently. In fact, the photometer reagents are highly formulated, which means that they're more expensive. And I think that's one reason why HazMat's moving away from a lot of the liquid. You can still do pH and chlorine with the liquid, but you really can't do any of the other test factors with a liquid. They move to a tablet form. And I think that's mainly because of the cost of the liquids, plus the shelf life of the tablet is much longer. So if you don't do calcium hardness or cyanuric acid tests as often, or even alkalinity tests as often as pH and chlorine and total chlorine, you're going to have a longer shelf life with tablets. The drawback with tablets are you got to crush them and then you'll get the reading. So as you can see from what I'm describing, the photometer is going to be more expensive and it's going to be slower because you have to kind of crush the tablet. Sometimes you have to wait for the reading depending on which system you have. Now I really do like the Pool Lab 2.0. I think it's called the Pool Water Lab 2.0 now because they had a little bit of trouble with the trademark name. The Pool Lab name is owned by another company. So I think they're calling that the Pool Water Lab, or the Pool Water Lab 2.0 is probably more specific. But I still call it the Pool Lab 2.0 because I'm familiar with the Pool Lab 1.0. Pool Lab is great. It's from Germany. Most of the reagents are going to be tablets, if not all the reagents are tablets. So that is a slight drawback. However, there are 3 chambers on the Pool Lab 2.0, so you can do actually 3 of these tests at one time, which no other photometer does that, except for the HazMat Spin Touch, which does up to 10 parameters in 60 seconds. They also have a 3-parameter disc for the Spin Touch. So it does have a competitor in the Spin Touch, but the price, of course, of the Pool Lab is $300. Pool Lab 2.0 is up around $300, and the cost of the Spin Touch is over $1,000. So there is a factor in the price there if you're comparing those two together. Some of the pros of the photometers are the amount of different readings you can do with them. For instance, the Color Q 2X Pro 9, you can do iron and copper, and you can also do biguanides if you wanted to do that. If you have a pool that has that, if you even know what that is. I've never had a pool with it, but people do use that. And you can also do all the other test factors with it. I like the Color Q 2X Pro 9 because of the iron and copper testing, something that you normally would just use a test strip for. But with a photometer, you're going to get a very accurate copper and iron reading in the pool, plus the other test factors that you normally would use. Now, the ITS Exact iDip does a lot more test factors. It's around $700 for that. It also comes with a pH probe, which is a pretty good kit. And you can do a bunch of test factors with these particular units, the ITS units. You can do, of course, your typical alkalinity, chlorine, combined chlorine. You can do copper. You can do hardness, iron, manganese, nitrate, pH, and quite a variety of tests you can do with these systems. A little bit more than the Color Q 2X Pro 9, but of course, the Color Q 2X Pro 9 has a lot of the basic tests that you need to do. The Pool Lab 2.0 or Pool Water Lab 2.0 has a battery test also. I think about 40 different ones. But some of the reagents can't be shipped to the US. I've run into that problem. I tried to get some nitrate pills from Germany sent to me so I can use it in the Pool Lab 2.0 and could not get through customs. It was like super expensive to order the nitrate test for some reason. So you're going to run into that problem with the Pool Water Lab 2.0. Not all of the reagents are available in the US, unfortunately, but enough of them, of course, are. They have a really cool one called high chlorine. You can test the chlorine level up to like 200 parts per million, which would be cool for like a green pool cleanup or if you're doing like a black algae treatment to kind of get an exact chlorine level. The ranges of these testers is also much better than you're going to get with your Taylor kit. For instance, since I'm on the page, the exact IDIP, you can get a pH of 6.4 to 8.4. And if you're using the color Q, the free chlorine is 0 to 10 parts per million. The bromine level is 0 to 22 parts per million. pH is 6.5 to 8.5. Total alkalinity is 0 to 300. And then your cyanuric acid is 0 to 150. And the calcium hardness 0 to 600. So the range is really great on these. And so if you need an exact reading, when would you need an exact reading? Well, of course, you would need it for startups. When you're doing startups for a builder, you would want to know what the calcium hardness is exactly, what the alkalinity is exactly, what the pH is exactly. These are important factors in the correct startup process. If you have a pool where the health department will come there, which would be any commercial pool, apartment complex, HOA complexes, hotels, motels, then you're going to need a photometer so that you can match the health department. A lot of them use the photometer out there to get their readings. They have time on their hands and they definitely want the most accurate reading for that pool because they are the health department and they're going to get a most inaccurate reading. They're not going to be using test strips out there for sure. So you want to match their readings and you want to make sure that your pool that you're taking care of for that community is going to be safe to swim in, and that the readings are going to match the health department readings. So those would be some really good scenarios to use a photometer. I would use it also when I'm doing a new pool bid for the first time so I can get an accurate reading of everything. You can do it on a monthly basis to get a really accurate reading of everything, chlorine, pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness, and even the cyanuric acid if you need to. I don't know if you would want to use it every day at a pool because of the time constraints. I mean, you wouldn't be doing the battery of testing there, so you can do the pH and chlorine for sure, and then maybe the alkalinity. But to me, it's kind of slow at that point, and that's why I don't like having a photometer only and relying on it only. I like to have a variety of different ways of testing. You can't go wrong with the Taylor K2005 kit because it's fast. The K2006 is also really good. I kind of lean more towards the K2005 because it doesn't use the DPD. It uses a reagent for the chlorine, which is faster. And then the test strips are the fastest. You can dip them in and kind of eyeball it. So do you need an accurate reading all the time? If you do, then yes, the photometer is what you're going to need to use all the time, especially for commercial pools or for those high-end pools where you really want to have the exact pH, the exact chlorine level, and need to have that recorded. You can beam all these results to the customer or to yourself. So that's really great. All of them have an app control where you can send the readings to your phone and then you can forward it to your customer or log it. Especially for the health department, you can log the date that you were there and what your reading was. So for documentation, for accuracy, you really can't beat a photometer out there in the field. It's just something that you can't match with the Taylor reagent test kit nor a test strip. So that's one reason why I like them a lot, is that if you're wanting the most accurate way to test the water, you're going to have to use a scientific device like a photometer to do it properly. And if you have trouble reading the colors with the reagent or with the test strips, and you can't figure out if the pH is 7.8 or 7.6, and you need to know that it's 7.6 exactly, then you're out of luck basically, and you're going to have to kind of just guess. But if you have a photometer, you can get the exact reading, and you can also, of course, record that reading as well. There's really no doubt in my mind that if you are bidding a new pool or working with a builder on a startup, if you show up there with the Color Q2X Pro 9 or the Lamont Spin Touch, you're really going to be seen as a professional. It's just like when your HVAC guy comes out there to your house and he's testing the capacitor, testing the motor. He's got the high-tech equipment. Basically, he can know right away what's wrong with it. The same with you. You have this high-tech test kit that you can get the readings from the pool water and get an accurate reading, and even send it to the customer saying, oh, here's your reading from today when I did the first visit to your pool, and send it over to them. It's really impressive, and don't get me wrong, it's something that can't be emulated with a tailored test kit or test strips. You can probably handwrite something or type it up, but it won't be as nice as getting it right from the app, and people will know that people that are in the know will know that the photometer is the most accurate water testing device out there. And last, the considerations with the photometer are this as well. I mentioned the reagents and the tablets are more expensive than the Taylor reagents or test strips, and in general, they're going to be more expensive than those two products. Also, the Lamont Spin Touch, the discs are going to be a lot more expensive than using pills or tablets, I should say, or reagents for the photometer. And of course, the exact test strips for the ITS systems are going to be more expensive than the Taylor reagents. So as far as price point, the photometer is going to cost more when you buy it. It'll cost more to maintain it as well with the reagents, tablets, discs, or the exact strips that you're going to get for them. So be aware of that. I want you to understand that economically speaking, it's the more expensive way to test the water compared to the Taylor test kit or the test strips, but it is the best and most accurate way to test the pool water. I would say that if you have an employee out in the field that is just learning kind of basic chemistry and maybe they're new to service or maybe a month or so in, and you want to make sure that that pool is being maintained properly, I would suggest giving them a Color Q2X Pro 7, which is probably the most affordable photometer out there. Give them one of those and have them use that to do the water testing at these stops at least twice a month, if not more, so that you kind of get an idea that they know what they're doing in balancing the water. I think it's important to set your employees up not to fail, and if you put them out there with test strips or a Taylor kit, they're probably not going to be nearly as well grounded in chemistry or in how to adjust the chemistry if they know the exact number or the exact pH, I should say, or alkalinity of the pool. If you're training them to balance the pool properly, I think giving them the photometer is a great way to do it. If you're a homeowner and you want to have the best way to kind of get the reading of your pool, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend a photometer to you, because then you're using this particular test kit that is probably the most advanced way to get your readings, and you don't have to worry about taking your sample to a pool store every week. You'll have the actual best testing method at your house, and they're relatively easy to use. Most of them, either you crush a pill or you add 5 drops of the reagent, or with the exact eye dip, you just kind of dip the strip in there and move it back and forth. So there really isn't a lot of user error or margin for error on these things. The biggest margin for error in any water testing is eyeballing it with the Taylor test kit or the test strip, because you don't have the exact reading, of course. So there's where the margin of error happens. As far as using these kits, there really isn't a lot of user error possible. Now, you may overfill the tube, or you may not zero out the unit or blank it out. Those are some things that you may have problems with. I know with the Lamont Spin Touch, a lot of times there was a lot of problems with overfilling or underfilling the discs, and that would make it pretty much a false reading. So these things don't happen often. Technology has really gone a long way with the photometers, and the readings come up really fast, and I think you're going to really enjoy using one of these, especially if you're a homeowner taking care of their own pool. And back to the Pool Pro now, I think if you are going to get one of these, you would want to have one that does the copper and iron again. So I would lean towards the Lamont Color Q2X Pro 9 because of all the different readings it does. And if you have a pool with biguanide, you definitely want to get this kit, because you can get the tablets for the biguanide and test that as well. I really think I would steer the Pool Pro away from the Color Q2X Pro 7, although I love that tester. It's not a bad tester at all, and I would steer you away from that and go to the Color Q2X Pro 9 because of the iron and copper testing. You'll find that you'll be using this a lot out there in your pool route, especially if you suspect metal in the waters, and it's something that you don't have to worry about test strips, and they're very accurate, and you can test the iron and copper up to as high as 3.0 parts per million, and then you can test the copper to 4.0 parts per million, which is a extremely high level of testing the iron and copper in a pool. And I know I kind of glazed over the Spin Touch. I mentioned it a few times here, and I would be remiss if I didn't really go into a slight bit of detail with it, because some people may be attracted to it. I mean, you're like a pool doctor when you have the Spin Touch. It comes in a nice case, and it does those test factors. And I'll run down the test factors one more time for you. Now, these come on various discs, but I think it's important that you know that this is like the Ferrari of photometers, and it does do a number of test factors that the Color Q2X Pro 9 does not do, also made by Lamont. Free chlorine, total chlorine, bromine pH, calcium hardness, total alkalinity, cyanuric acid, copper, iron, And then here's the ones that I think are important to some people that you can't do with the Color Cube 2X Pro 9 or Pro 7. You have salt or salinity, phosphate, which comes in extremely handy in California, and then borate, which comes in extremely handy if you use the borate products in pools, and also the biguanide testing for the pool. So I would say if you are wanting to get the highest quality photometer on the market, the Ferrari of photometers, the Spin Touch by Lamont is something that you can purchase. Again, over $1,000, but I think in a lot of cases, depending on the use you're going to put it to, it may be worth it to you to have that on your pool service route. Looking for other podcasts that I recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, where I have over 1,500 podcasts. Just click on the podcast icon on the banner, and then there'll be a drop-down menu for you of podcasts. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app.